Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going way beyond those images of dusty mine shafts and pickaxes. We're going to explore the surprisingly high-tech world of modern mining. We've got a stack of fascinating reports and articles here to help us unearth what matters most.
You know, it's a field that's often seen as stuck in the past, but mining is actually deeply intertwined with the future of technology and the environment, and even global politics.
Exactly. We've got excerpts from a really insightful IFS industry report about mining production solutions. And then we've got an AP News article that dives into the environmental consequences of all this mining. And finally, we have a Fortune commentary that makes a strong case for completely reinventing mining here in the U.S.
It's about way more than just digging up rocks, you know? The materials mined today will literally shape the technologies, economies, and even the global power dynamics of tomorrow. It's so true. And the first thing that just jumps out from all of these sources is this incredible surge in demand for metals and minerals. You know, we're talking about the raw materials that make everything from the smartphone in your pocket to the electric vehicles that are sort of revolutionizing transportation.
And the IFS report really drives home the point that this demand is driving a massive mining boom. But as the AP News article highlights, that boom comes with significant environmental consequences.
Yeah, the AP News article's findings on deforestation were especially eye-opening to me. Between 2001 and 2020, we lost a mind-blowing 1.4 million hectares of trees due to mining. And that's an area the size of Montenegro. And almost a third of that loss occurred in those vital carbon-rich rainforests. It's easy to overlook the connection between our everyday gadgets and the environmental impact of mining those raw materials. For example, you might be surprised to learn that the lithium in your smartphone battery often comes from mines that have cleared vast swaths of forest land. So the choices we make as consumers, the technologies we embrace, they all have ripple effects that extend far beyond our immediate surroundings.
That's such an important point. You know, it's not just about abstract environmental concerns. It's about understanding how our own actions are connected to these global challenges. And the human cost is a huge factor, too. The AP News article points out that indigenous and local communities are often hit the hardest by mining operations, losing their land or their livelihoods and their cultural heritage.
Absolutely. The article really emphasizes the complex social and ethical dimensions of this industry. You know, mining can displace communities, disrupt ecosystems, and even fuel conflicts in some regions. It's a reminder that we need to carefully consider the full spectrum of impacts when evaluating the costs and benefits of mining.
So we've got this surging demand for minerals that's driving a mining boom with these serious environmental and social consequences. And then there's this whole geopolitical layer on top of that. The Fortune commentary paints a pretty stark picture of China's strategic control over critical minerals, like gallium for semiconductors, rare earths for magnets, and antimony, which is used in everything from batteries to defense systems.
And what's so fascinating here is that it directly affects you and me. The commentary highlights potential consequences like higher prices for everyday goods, supply chain disruptions that could lead to shortages of essential products, and even national security concerns as countries grapple for control over these vital resources. It's a high-stakes game with global implications.
It really is. And it's clear that we need to rethink the way we approach mining. Both the Fortune commentary and the IFS report strongly advocate for a complete reinvention of the industry, especially here in the U.S.
Traditional mining techniques are often inefficient, environmentally damaging, and frankly, outdated. As the Fortune piece puts it, even Pliny the Elder, a Roman author and naturalist from nearly 2,000 years ago, would recognize most of today's mining techniques. But the IFS report highlights the incredible potential of technology to create a more efficient, sustainable, and ultimately a more responsible mining industry.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. So we're not just talking about incremental improvements. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how mining operates.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting. The report dives into these cutting-edge technologies like digital twins of mines, AI-powered analysis of geological data, and even mobile field data capture to gain real-time insights into mining operations. It's like stepping into a science fiction novel.
Digital twins. Now, that's a term I haven't heard before. What exactly does that mean in the context of mining?
Imagine having a highly detailed virtual replica of an entire mining operation, a digital twin, so to speak. Everything from the geological formations to the equipment and infrastructure would be represented in this digital space. This would allow engineers to simulate different scenarios, test new mining techniques, and even predict potential problems before they occur in the real world.
So it's like a giant, super sophisticated sandbox for mining engineers.
You got it. It allows them to optimize every aspect of the mining operation, from resource extraction to worker safety, all within a virtual environment. And that translates to significant cost savings, reduced risks, and a smaller environmental footprint.
That's incredible. So instead of blindly digging into the earth, we can use technology to pinpoint the most efficient and least disruptive ways to extract the resources we need.
Exactly. And that's just one example of how technology is revolutionizing the mining industry. And speaking of revolution, the Fortune commentary makes a compelling case for the U.S. to step up its game and become a global leader in this new era of mining.
It seems like they're advocating for a national effort to revitalize the U.S. mining sector, right? They talk about attracting young talent and reframing mining as a high-tech field that's crucial to a clean energy future.
Precisely. They argue that the U.S. needs to move away from this outdated image of mining as a dirty and dangerous industry and embrace its potential to drive innovation, economic growth, and a more sustainable future. They also highlight the strategic importance of securing domestic supplies of these critical minerals, especially in light of China's dominance in the market.
And that brings us to a really interesting piece from mining.com. It lays out 5 very specific actions that the next U.S. president could take on day one to boost the country's critical mineral mining capabilities.
These policy suggestions really get to the heart of how the U.S. can position itself as a leader in this new era of mining. We're talking about everything from stockpiling critical minerals to streamlining the permitting process for new mining projects.
Okay, let's dive into those specific actions. First up, stockpiling. What's the gist there?
The opinion piece highlights a rather alarming statistic. The U.S. military's National Defense Stockpile, or NDS, only has enough materials to cover about 6% of what would be needed in a hypothetical one-year conflict with China.
Wow, that's a pretty stark reality check. What are they suggesting to address this vulnerability?
They propose tapping into existing funds, specifically the NDS Transaction Fund and the Defense Production Act Fund, to increase stockpiles of critical minerals. But here's where it gets interesting. They specifically recommend prioritizing the stockpiling of minerals that are extracted and processed here in the United States.
So it's not just about stockpiling any old minerals. It's about strategically building up reserves of domestically sourced materials. That's a smart move.
Absolutely. It's about creating a more resilient and self-reliant supply chain, reducing dependence on foreign sources, and ultimately strengthening national security.
Okay, so stockpiling is about securing the supply of critical minerals. What about the next policy area subsidies? What's the rationale behind that?
Well, both the Trump and Biden-Harris administrations have recognized the importance of supporting the domestic critical minerals industry, and they've both supported subsidies for these projects. The opinion piece suggests that the next administration should build on those efforts and further expand these initiatives.
So what specific actions are they proposing? How could those subsidies be used most effectively?
One idea is to expand the Department of Energy's Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program to include mining projects. Right now, this program is focused on processing projects, but they argue that including mining would be a significant boost for the entire supply chain.
Makes sense. If you want to secure a domestic supply of critical minerals, you need to support the extraction of those minerals in the first place. What else is on their subsidy wish list?
They also suggest exploring the potential for tax breaks for U.S. mineral processing facilities. Specifically, they propose extending the production costs covered by a certain tax credit to include feedstock acquisition. This would make it more financially attractive to process those minerals here in the U.S. rather than sending them overseas.
So it's about creating a more favorable environment for domestic mining and processing. Okay, that brings us to the next policy area, procurement. Sounds a bit bureaucratic, but I have a feeling it's actually pretty important.
You're absolutely right. Procurement policies can be incredibly powerful tools for shaping industries. The opinion piece points out that both the Trump and Biden-Harris administrations have supported increasing the amount of domestically sourced materials used in government purchases.
So, for instance, if the government is buying a fleet of electric vehicles for official use, they'd have to ensure that a certain percentage of the minerals in those batteries came from U.S. mines.
Exactly. It's about using the government's purchasing power to create demand for domestically sourced minerals, which in turn stimulates growth in the U.S. mining industry. The opinion piece specifically recommends that the Federal Acquisition Regulatory Council create a rule requiring that certain clean energy technologies purchased by the government contain a minimum percentage of domestically sourced minerals.
That's a pretty significant lever to pull. What about tariffs? I'm guessing this is a bit of a political hot potato.
You're not wrong. Tariffs are always a contentious issue. But as you might expect, this opinion piece does suggest that the next president should consider using tariffs to protect the U.S. critical minerals industry.
Didn't both the Trump and Biden-Harris administrations raise tariffs on certain minerals imported from China?
They did, and this opinion piece suggests that the next president might want to follow suit. They even outline a couple of different approaches. One option is to use the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This would allow the president to declare a national emergency related to mineral imports, which would give them broad authority to impose tariffs on a wide range of products.
Wow, that's a pretty drastic measure. What's the other option?
The other option is a bit more nuanced. The president could direct the Secretary of Commerce to launch an investigation into mineral imports to determine whether they're harming national security. If the investigation finds that they are, the Secretary's agree, the Secretary can recommend tariffs. It's a more measured approach, but it could still be effective.
Okay, so tariffs are definitely on the table. What about the last policy area they highlight, permitting, right?
Yes, permitting is a crucial issue for the mining industry. Both Trump and Biden-Harris have expressed a desire to streamline the permitting process for large infrastructure projects, and mining is definitely included in that.
So what's the holdup? Why is permitting such a major hurdle for mining companies?
Well, in the past, most mining projects required a special permit under the Clean Water Act, which triggered a lengthy and often complex environmental review process. However, a recent Supreme Court ruling narrowed the scope of this permitting requirement.
So does that mean it's smooth sailing for mining companies now?
Not exactly. Even though fewer projects require the permit now, there's still a lot of uncertainty about which projects fall under the new guidelines. This can create delays and make it difficult for companies to move forward with their plans.
So what's the solution? What's the opinion piece's recommendation for addressing these permitting challenges?
They suggest that the Army Corps of Engineers, the agency responsible for issuing these permits, should prioritize reviewing applications from potential mining sites. This would help expedite the process and provide more clarity for mining companies.
So basically cut through the red tape and get those mines up and running faster. Makes sense.
Exactly. And that wraps up the 5 key policy areas they highlight.
Wow, that's a lot to digest. From stockpiling to permitting, it seems like the next U.S. president will have a full toolbox of options for boosting domestic critical mineral production. It's clear that the U.S. is at a pivotal point. We have the opportunity to become a global leader in responsible and innovative mining, but it's going to require bold action and strategic decision-making.
I completely agree. And with global competition for these resources intensifying every day, the choices we make now will have far-reaching consequences for years to come.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've explored the surging demand for critical minerals, the environmental and social impacts of mining, China's dominance in the market, and even some potential policy solutions for the U.S. to consider. But our journey into the world of modern mining is far from over.
There's so much more to uncover. In our next segment, we'll delve into those fascinating technological advancements that are transforming the mining industry from digital twins to AI-powered analysis. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of modern mining.
It feels like we've only just scratched the surface, of this surprisingly complex and kind of fascinating industry.
There's so much more to explore. So let's shift gears a bit and really dig into those cutting-edge technologies that are transforming the way mining operates. The IFS report we mentioned earlier is just a treasure trove of information on this topic.
Okay, I'm all ears. I have to admit, though, when we talk about, high-tech mining, my mind jumps to robots mining asteroids or something like that, but maybe that's a little too futuristic.
We're not quite there yet, but the report does highlight some truly impressive technological advancements that are already reshaping the industry. One of the most intriguing concepts they discuss is the digital twin.
Digital twin. Okay, that sounds pretty sci-fi to me. So is that like a virtual clone of a mine or something?
Precisely. Imagine a highly detailed virtual replica of an entire mining operation. Everything from the geological formations to the equipment and infrastructure is represented in this digital space.
Yeah.
It's like having X-ray vision of the entire mine, but you can also manipulate it and see how different factors interact.
Okay, I'm starting to see the possibilities here. So you could use this digital twin to simulate different mining scenarios, right?
Absolutely. You can model different mining techniques, test the efficiency of new equipment, and even predict potential problems before they happen in the real world, like having a crystal ball for your mining operation.
So it's like a giant virtual sandbox for mining engineers where they can experiment and optimize every aspect of the operation.
That's a great way to put it. It gives them a safe and cost-effective way to test different approaches, improve efficiency, and reduce the environmental impact of mining. For example, they could simulate different drilling techniques to find the least disruptive way to extract the ore, minimizing the impact on surrounding ecosystems.
Wow, that's incredible. Sounds like digital twins could be a game changer for making mining more sustainable. What other cool tech does the IFS report highlight?
Well, they also delve into the growing role of artificial intelligence, or AI, in the mining industry. Think about it. We're talking about analyzing these massive data sets from geological surveys, sensor readings, from equipment, and even market trends.
Okay, now we're talking big data. What kind of insights can you actually glean from all that information?
AI algorithms can sift through all that data and identify the most promising locations for exploration, predict ore grades with greater accuracy, and even automate certain mining processes, making them more efficient and precise.
So AI could help us make smarter decisions about where to mine, how to mine, and even potentially make the whole process more profitable.
Precisely. It's about leveraging the power of data and algorithms to improve every stage of the mining operation. And the report also touches on the use of mobile field data capture.
Now that piques my curiosity. What exactly is mobile field data capture?
It's essentially equipping field personnel with mobile devices that can capture real-time data about everything happening on the ground, equipment performance, safety inspections, you name it.
So instead of relying on paper forms and manual data entry, everything is digitized and instantly accessible.
Exactly. It streamlines communication, eliminates errors, and allows for faster and more informed decision-making. It's about bringing the power of real-time data to the front lines of the mining operation.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. All these technologies seem to be about making mining more data-driven, more connected, and ultimately more intelligent.
You're spot on. The modern mine is rapidly evolving into this high-tech, data-rich environment. And the IFS report makes it very clear that companies that embrace these advancements will have a significant competitive advantage in the years to come.
So it's not just about brawn anymore. It's about brains. It's about using data, algorithms, and digital simulations to optimize every facet of the operation.
And that shift is attracting a whole new generation of talent to the industry. People with skills in data analysis, software development, and AI are finding exciting opportunities in mining, which is helping to change the perception of this age-old industry.
It's fascinating how technology is not only changing how we mine, but also who is doing the mining. It's no longer just about folks with pickaxes and hard hats. It's about data scientists, engineers, and software developers. It's like mining has gotten this high-tech makeover.
And speaking of makeovers, remember that Fortune commentary about reinventing mining in the U.S.?
Yeah, I do. They made a really compelling argument for reframing mining as a high-tech field that's crucial to a clean energy future. After all, these critical minerals are essential for everything from electric vehicle batteries to solar panels and wind turbines.
It's like mining is becoming the unsung hero of the clean energy revolution.
Exactly. It's no longer just about digging up dirt. It's about enabling the technologies that will power the 21st century and help us transition to a more sustainable future.
I read this really interesting article recently about a company called Blue Evolution that's doing some really innovative things in this space.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Well, Blue Evolution is a great example of how innovation in mining isn't just limited to software and digital technologies. They're developing a completely different approach to mining, one that involves seaweed.
Seaweed. Wait a minute. I need to make sure I heard that correctly. Mining seaweed. How does that even work?
It's pretty amazing, actually. They're working on a method to extract critical minerals and rare earth elements directly from seaweed.
So instead of digging giant holes in the ground, we'll be farming seaweed. That sounds incredibly eco-friendly.
It does, doesn't it? And that's a big part of Blue Evolution's appeal. They're positioning themselves as a sustainable alternative to traditional mining, especially when it comes to those hard-to-find and highly sought-after rare earth elements.
Okay, I'm definitely going to have to do some more research on this seaweed mining thing. It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
Yeah.
But it's a great example of how innovation is happening across the board in the mining industry.
Absolutely. People are exploring all sorts of creative and unconventional approaches to make mining more sustainable, efficient, and ultimately less impactful on our planet. It's an exciting time to be following this industry.
It really is. It feels like mining is on the verge of a major transformation driven by a combination of technological advancements and a growing awareness of its environmental and social impact.
And with all this talk of change and reinvention, I'm curious about what the future of mining actually looks like. What are the big trends that are shaping this rapidly evolving landscape?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, there are several key trends to keep an eye on. One of the most significant is the growing emphasis on automation. Think self-driving trucks hauling ore, robotic drills excavating tunnels, and drones surveying vast mining sites.
So we're talking about robots taking over some of the more dangerous and repetitive tasks that are traditionally performed by humans.
Precisely. But it's not about replacing human workers altogether. It's about augmenting their capabilities, improving safety, and boosting overall efficiency.
That makes sense. Seems like a win-win situation, increased safety for workers and greater efficiency for mining companies. What other trends are on the horizon?
Another major trend is the push for greater transparency and traceability in mineral supply chains. Consumers are becoming more aware of the ethical and environmental concerns associated with mining, especially for those critical minerals that are used in their smartphones and electric vehicles.
So they want to know where those materials come from, how they were mined, and what impact that mining had on the environment and local communities.
Exactly. People are demanding more accountability and transparency from companies. They want assurances that the products they buy are sourced responsibly and ethically.
So how can the mining industry address those concerns? How can they make their supply chains more transparent and reassure consumers that they're operating ethically?
Technology plays a key role here as well. Blockchain, for example, offers a secure and transparent way to track the journey of minerals from the mine to the finished product, ensuring ethical sourcing and responsible practices at every step along the way.
So it's like a digital fingerprint that follows a mineral throughout its entire life cycle, verifying its origins and ensuring that it meets certain ethical and environmental standards.
That's a great analogy. Blockchain can be a powerful tool for building trust with consumers and demonstrating a commitment to sustainable and responsible mining practices.
Oh, this is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
It really feels like mining is undergoing a profound transformation, driven by technological innovation and a growing awareness of its impact on the world.
And that transformation is going to have a profound impact on all of us, whether we realize it or not. The materials mined today will shape the technologies, the infrastructure, and the economies of tomorrow.
It's like mining is this often invisible foundation upon which our modern world is built.
Exactly. And that's why understanding this industry, its challenges, its innovations, and its global implications is so crucial.
Well, we've certainly gained a deeper understanding of mining today thanks to this deep dive. It's clear that this is not your grandfather's mining industry anymore. It's a dynamic, evolving field that's being reshaped by technology, global economics, and a growing demand for transparency and sustainability.
And in our next segment, we'll explore the geopolitical implications of this global race for critical minerals. We'll delve into the power dynamics at play, the strategies countries are using to secure their supply chains, and what it all means for the future of the global economy. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've explored the technological innovations and the environmental and social impacts of modern mining, but now it's time to venture into the geopolitical arena, where the battle for control over these critical minerals is really heating up.
Yeah, it's a complex and fascinating landscape. And, as we've touched on, China currently holds this dominant position in the global critical minerals market. And this gives them, a significant amount of leverage on the world stage.
And the fortune commentary we discussed earlier highlighted how China has already shown a willingness to use export restrictions on these minerals as a strategic tool. Remember those restrictions they placed on gallium and antimony? It sent shockwaves through global supply chains and had a real impact on industries and economies around the world.
Those actions were a clear signal that China is willing to use its control over critical minerals to advance its own economic and geopolitical interests. And it's prompted other countries to really start thinking about how vulnerable they are to these kinds of disruptions.
It's like this high-stakes game of chess, but instead of pawns and bishops, we're talking about lithium and cobalt and rare earth elements. So how are other countries responding to this new reality? I mean, they can't just sit back and let China call all the shots, right?
Absolutely not. Many nations are actively seeking to diversify their supply chains, reduce their reliance on China, and secure access to these essential resources for themselves. They're realizing that they need to be more proactive in ensuring their own, economic and technological security.
That makes perfect sense. No country wants to find themselves in a position where they're dependent on another country for the raw materials that are essential for their industries and their national defense.
Exactly. And that's why we're seeing a surge in investment in mining projects around the world. Countries are scrambling to secure their own supplies of these critical minerals, and they're exploring a wide range of options to do so.
So it's like a global gold rush. But instead of gold, we're talking about lithium for electric vehicle batteries, cobalt for smartphones, and rare earth elements for everything from wind turbines to fighter jets.
It's a race to secure the building blocks of the 21st century economy, and the competition is fierce. We're seeing countries forge new trade partnerships, invest heavily in domestic mining operations, and even explore unconventional sources like deep-sea mining.
Deep-sea mining. Now that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. What exactly does that entail?
It's exactly what it sounds like, mining the ocean floor for minerals. As land-based resources become scarcer and more difficult to access, deep-sea mining is becoming an increasingly attractive option for some countries. The ocean floor is rich in minerals, including many of those critical minerals that are in such high demand.
But I imagine there are some pretty serious environmental concerns about deep-sea mining, right? We're talking about disturbing this largely unexplored and potentially fragile ecosystem.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of debate and uncertainty about the potential environmental impact of deep-sea mining. Some argue that it could cause significant damage to marine life and biodiversity, while others believe that it can be done responsibly with minimal environmental impact. It's a complex issue with high stakes, and it's going to require careful consideration and international cooperation to find the right balance.
Yeah, it's like this classic dilemma weighing the need for these resources against the need to protect the environment. And it highlights the fact that this global competition for critical minerals isn't just about economics and technology. It's also about environmental responsibility and sustainability.
Absolutely. As the demand for these minerals intensifies, so too does the pressure to extract them in a way that minimizes environmental damage and ensures the long-term health of our planet.
So it all circles back to that need for innovation and reinvention that we discussed earlier, right? If we're going to mine these resources, we need to find ways to do it smarter, cleaner, and more sustainably.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why those technological advancements we talked about, digital twins, AI-powered analysis, automation, they're so crucial. They offer the potential to make mining more efficient, reduce waste, and minimize the overall environmental footprint.
So it's not just about who gets their hands on these minerals, it's about how they extract them and what impact that extraction has on the planet.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between economic growth, technological progress, and environmental stewardship. It's about recognizing that these resources are finite and that we have a shared responsibility to use them wisely and sustainably.
It's a global challenge that demands global cooperation. We need to find ways to work together to ensure that these critical minerals are mined responsibly and that the benefits are shared equitably.
That's a great point, and it brings us to the heart of the matter. The future of mining is not just about technology, economics, or geopolitics. It's about our collective responsibility to manage these resources wisely for the benefit of all humankind.
Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of modern mining. And wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've gone from dusty mine shafts to these high-tech solutions, from deforestation to deep-sea mining. And we've explored these intricate connections between this industry and the future of our planet.
It really has been an incredible journey. We've seen how mining is evolving at an unprecedented pace, driven by technological innovation, shifting global power dynamics, and this growing awareness of its impact on the environment and society.
And it's clear that the choices we make today, both as individuals and as a global community, will have a profound impact on the future of mining and really the future of our world.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. As the demand for critical minerals continues to rise, what role do you think technology innovation and global cooperation should play in shaping a more responsible and sustainable future for mining? It's a question worth pondering as we navigate this complex and ever-evolving landscape.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.